Mongolia. Modern Mongolians, the descendants of the great Genghis Khan, who conquered half the world through his courage, strength and power, have great stories. Mongolia's history has continued for 2,220 years, since its creation by the Hunnu ancestors of the Mongols in the 3rd century BC to the present day, and has made a rich contribution to the development and progress of politics, economics and society around the world. Mongolians have decisively defined the story for 2 of 20 centuries held by humanity and left a unique mark on the history of the Middle Ages of the world. At the end of the 13th century, Genghis Khan, uniting a small confederation of rival nomadic tribes on the Central Asian steppes, created the largest empire the world has ever witnessed, and in 1206 proclaimed the establishment of the Great Mongolian Empire to the world. After the establishment of the Great Mongolian Empire, Genghis Khan and his descendants conquered China, Korea, the Caucasus, Central Asian countries, Russia, Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and outlined a new map of the world, closely united a kingdom separated by mountains, created a new world and order in the new era, and thus created the greatest country in the world. On the threshold of the 3rd millennium of human development, the newspaper The Washington Post defined Genghis Khan as the most famous person of the past millennium, and justifies its assertion as, at the beginning milestone of the past millennium, was the fact that one nation alone was able to fully express its mighty power the world over. Genghis Khan and his descendants created the largest free trade zone, covering vast Eurasia. The Ikhzasag law, created by Genghis Khan, made an important contribution to society as a whole and the state and political system of the history of human civilization. His organization of troops, military strategy, and tactics are still used until now. And the Golden Gerege, or Golden Signboard, was the beginning of the modern international foreign passport and official credentials. It is believed that the horse relay station, which was initiated by Ogedei, a son and successor of Genghis Khan, put the foundation of modern express mail, postal, and email communications. Mongolia, with wondrous beautiful nature and unique national tradition, is a country located in the central part of Asia, bordered by Russia to the north and China to the south, east and west. Mongolia has territory of 1,560,000 square kilometers and 3 million people, and is the 18th largest country in the world, second in Asia, and the world's second largest landlocked country. Mongolia has a sharp continental climate with 4 distinct seasons. Winter air temperatures reach 50 degrees below zero and 40 degrees above in the summer. Mongolia is divided into administrative territorial units, comprising 21 provinces and the capital city, Ulaanbaatar. Mongolia is a country with a parliamentarian system, and the head of state is the president. The head of government is the prime minister. The supreme legislative body is the state Great Khurul. Mongolia was first to make a democratic revolution in Asia, and has become one of the few countries that were able to move from socialism to capitalism peacefully. Mongolia is an agro-industrial country. Agriculture in Mongolia consists almost entirely of nomadic livestock herding, and there are now 50 million head of livestock in Mongolia, mainly sheep, goats, camels, cattle, and horses. Mongolia occupies 10th place in the world by number of livestock head per person. In the northern zone of its territory, Mongolia is developing the agrarian culture, agriculture and cultivation of wheat and vegetables. The mining industry has been intensively developing in Mongolia in recent years, and there are many rich deposits of copper, molybdenum, gold, silver, ferrous and non-ferrous metals, and coking coal. The Oyu Tolgoi deposit, located in southern Mongolia, is the world's largest gold-copper deposit, with huge reserves of 1,300 tons of gold, 37 million tons of copper and silver. This deposit has reserves for at least 50 years of operations. And Tavan Tolgoi coalfield has the world's largest untapped coking coal, which is the most valuable raw material needed in modern industry. In Mongolia, there is freedom of belief in any kind of religion. 80% of the Mongolian people believe in Buddha, and the rest believe in shamans, Christ, Islam, and Baha'i. Buddhism strongly began to spread from 13th to the 14th century Mongolian Yuan state territory in the 16th century and reached the level of a state religion. 100 years ago, Mongolia had 1,250 monasteries and churches, 100,000 monks, several million volumes of Buddhist books and codices, and all the people believed in the religion. Mongolia was one of 2 centers of Buddhism in the world. The capital city of Ulaanbaatar has Gandan Tegchilin Monastery, which is the largest center of the Buddhist religion in the world. In 1838, the Ich-Maider Monastery was created by the head of the Buddhist religion, that is modern Gandan Tegchilin Monastery. In 1911, the high gold-plated Buddha Megjid Janraisig, which is adorned with gold and jewels, was created by skilled craftsmen from donations of the faithful believers. In the southern area of Ulaanbaatar, there is a gilded Buddha statue with a height of 30 meters. This complex is home to a variety of Buddhist activities. The Amarbayaskalant Monastery, located in the northern region of Mongolia, is not only an invaluable heritage site of religion, history and culture of Mongolians, but also the largest Buddhist monastery, having a unique architectural design. The construction of the monastery was started in 1727 in honor of Undurgegen, or Saint Zanabazar, the first Bogd and the great artist and head of the Mongolian Buddhists. The construction was completed in 1736. In 1937, the monastery building was severely damaged, and while there were more than 40 monasteries in the fortress, 207 meters long and 175 meters wide, there are now only 28 monasteries and small temples inside the fortress. In 1943, this monastery was taken under state protection and restored, and icons of the gods were renewed in India. The design and decorations of the monastery are considered uniquely beautiful and gorgeous, not only in Mongolia, but in all of Asia. Shamanism appeared in Mongolia during the Hunnu Empire, or 7,000 years ago. Shamanism is a religion with a strong doctrine and mind which is based on the worship of the blue sky, the earth, and the ancestral spirit, and also assumes that the sky and the earth are the creator. Genghis Khan himself was a shamanist, but was tolerant of other faiths. Before departing for war, he certainly ascended to the highest mountain, raised his belt to his neck, and prayed to the blue sky. The clothing and accessories of the shaman are wholly symbolic of nature, the earth and the world, their animals and their existence. And it is a kind of very interesting custom symbolizing everyday life of the Mongols. Mongolia is a country with amazingly wonderful, beautiful nature. Since Mongolia is on the border of the Great Desert of Central Asia and the grand forests of Siberia, as well as due to the low population density because of its low population, Mongolia is one of the few countries where there is preserved beautiful nature without any human intervention. Mongolians have great experience in protecting nature. In 1778, by decree of the Mongolian Khan, officially the Bogd Khan mountain was declared as a sacred place or natural reserve. This mountain is located south of Ulaanbaatar. This was 100 years before the famous creation of Yellowstone Park. To save the wondrous nature and leave it intact, environmental protection was obtained in 42 places, occupying 11% of the territory. These were taken under state protection and declared natural complexes of national reservation and to be protected from destruction. Depending on the geographical features, the Mongolian sky is cloudless and very clean. So tourists call Mongolia a blue sky country. This is a country where tourists have a chance to see the countless twinkling stars on a clear, cloudless night. In Hufsgul Lake National Park, a long-term ecological research site has about 300 large and small rivers and lakes. One of the national parks that Mongols always revered as Mother Ocean is Hufsgul Lake. Hufsgul Lake is located in the northern part of Mongolia and is surrounded by the mountain ranges of Horidol Saredag and the Sayan Mountains. It is the largest lake in Mongolia, with a length of 134 kilometers from the northern shore to the south, and a width of 39 kilometers. It is the second most voluminous freshwater lake in Asia, and holds almost 70% of Mongolia's fresh water and 0.4% of all the fresh water in the world. The water of Hufsgul Lake is surprisingly clean and transparency is 24 meters. This is one of the 17 most ancient lakes of the world and is 2 million years old. The Tsatan, or reindeer herders, live in the forests and taiga of this amazingly beautiful place. Reindeer herders still haven't left the ancient lifestyle of the nomadic culture, keeping a life of culture, tradition, and preserved shamanic beliefs. The Tsatan love their nomadic lifestyle of breeding reindeer and sleeping in huts. There are historical facts that people in Mongolia lived breeding reindeer in the 13th century. There are very few of the reindeer herder ethnic group in Mongolia. Currently, there are 130 of 600 families of reindeer herders living in Hufsgul province, who inhabit the most remote and amazingly beautiful mountain taigas. The Gorkhy Terelj National Park is located 60 kilometers east of Ulaanbaatar. It is one of the highlights of Mongolia. This is a spectacular valley with high eroded rock formations, pine-covered hills, steppes with edelweiss, and a dazzling variety of other wild flowers, and sparkling waters of mountain rivers. In order to protect areas of the Gorkhy Terelj, regulate usage and develop tourism, in 1993 it was declared a national park and an area under state special protection. There are a lot of very interesting and surprisingly beautiful places created by nature itself, such as the Milhi Rock, shaped like a turtle, the Camel Rock, the Cave of Three Friends, and Chingis Mountain. There are many hotels, tourist centers, and health centers. The Chinggis Khan Statue Complex. A giant statue of Chinggis Khan on horseback is near the city of Ulaanbaatar in a place called Sonjin Boldog. The entire edifice is covered in 250 tons of steel. This is a 40-meter high statue with a high base, covered by stainless steel and surrounded by 36 columns. The haughty yet honourable statue is surrounded by 36 columns which represent the 36 Mongolian Khans of Chinggis Khan's golden generation. Visitors ascend to the exhibition hall using an elevator at the back of the horse and walk to the horse's head by passing through its chest and along the back of its neck, from where they will have an excellent panoramic view over the complex area and the scenery beyond. A recreation area, restaurants, souvenir shop and conference hall occupy the base structure. As the story says, when Chinggis Khan went to Hered to ask for help, he found a whip on this Sonjin Boldog. He was very happy and took this as a good omen that he would be very fortunate. This whip is made in large scale and is located here. And there are the biggest shoes in the world that have been entered into the Guinness Book of World Records for the largest shoes. The Hustai Nuro National Park. Hustai Nuro National Park is located 80 kilometers from Ulaanbaatar and covers 500 square kilometers of land. The national park has beautiful birch forests and more than 10 freshwater streams, and is a home for horses, antelope, deer, wild boar, marmots, and 126 species of migratory birds. Many works have been implemented to protect the ecosystem and historical and cultural heritage of this gorgeous and beautiful area, as well as organize research studies, surveys and trainings with the international framework and develop ecotourism. Since 1992, the Mongolian-Dutch joint program to acclimatize the wild Taki horse, that is the world's only remaining species of wild horse, has been successfully implemented. The project today now has over 220 Taki in the Hustai National Park. The Mongolian Gobi. The Gobi is located in the southern area of Mongolia. The Mongolian Gobi is the largest desert in Asia and the 5th largest in the world. There is the largest population of two-humped camels that has become very rare in the world. The domesticated Bactrian camel has a tolerance for cold, drought and high altitudes. In the world, there is an estimated population of 23 million camels, of which 3% are two-humped camels, and Mongolia has 40% of them. The Gobi's Gurvan mountain is located in the southern region of Mongolia and consists of 3 separated ranges stretching for 100 kilometers. The park lies on the northern edge of the Gobi Desert. A number of rare plants and animals are found in the park, including the elusive snow leopard and the Gobi camel. Areas of sand dunes are found, most famously Hongrenels, the Singing Sands. Another major tourist destination is Yoli Nam, a mountain valley 200 meters high that contains a large ice field for most of the year. In the Gobi, there are such wonderful places as Hermentsav, Bayanzag, Tugrugin Shire that have the richest archaeological remains, including dinosaur skeletons. In 1922, the US paleontologist Roy Chapman Andrews' team found a fossilized skeleton of a giant lizard and a giant egg in Bayanzag from the time 80 to 83 million years ago. and they are now stored in the Museum of Paleontology in the United States of America. The Hongor Dune. The Great Hongor's Sand Dune is located in the Gobi-Gurvan-Saichen National Park. This is the biggest sand massif in Mongolia, which covers 130 kilometers from the northwest to southeast along wind currents with a width of 3 to 5 kilometers and in some areas 20 kilometers. The height of the higher sand dune, named Hananels, is 195 meters. The movement of the Hongor sand makes a unique noise, and it's called the Singing Dune by local people. From the top of the hill, 100 sand dunes are visible. On the south side, one can see the Rocky Mountains. In the midst of this are the sands, where it is impossible to grow even a single plant. And in the northern part is a very beautiful green oasis where the river flows. In the Gobi, there are many fine and very beautiful places, such as Ich Gazrin Chulu, or large land stone, and Baga Gazrin Chulu, small land stone, that have very unique rocks with sharp peaks and unique forms. The Tsagan Survaga is sharp and dangerously steep. The clay coaxed out of the ocean floor is eroded by natural phenomena during years, generating the impressive and legendary cliff. And Mongolians have honored it since ancient times by calling these escarpments the Tsagan Suvarga, or White Stupa. The Mongol Altai Mountains are a mountain range to the northwest of Mongolia, stretching for 900 kilometers. The Altai Tavan-Bogd National Park is the most picturesque and largest area, combining the eternal snow of high mountain peaks, icy rivers, aigi of mountains with a glacier covered with snow and ice. The mountainous areas of the Altai Mountains are inhabited by the Kazakh ethnic group. The Kazakhs are the largest ethnic group descended from the Tuareg generation and living in Mongolia. Although the lifestyle of the Kazakhs is somewhat similar to the Mongol nomads from the steppe, their culture and language differs in many aspects from that of Mongolians. Apart from herding domestic animals as the main source of living, it is common for Kazakhs to hunt with trained eagles. For Kazakhs, hunting with eagles is one of the highest expressions of their cultural heritage and is asserted with pride. In 2010, eagle hunting was registered on the list of intangible cultural heritage of the UNESCO Cultural Heritage Fund. The Orkhon Valley cultural landscape lies in the central part of Mongolia and covers grasslands along the historic Orkhon River. The archaeologically rich Orkhon River basin was home to successive nomadic cultures which evolved from prehistoric origins in harmony with the natural landscape of the steppes and resulted in economic, social, and cultural policies unique to the region. The main monuments of the Orkhon Valley are as follows. The so-called Orkhon monuments are early 6th to 8th century Turkic memorials to Bilgi Khan and Kul Tigin, the most impressive monuments from the nomadic Tuareg Empire. The Shining Monument of Bilgi Khan is a 3.3 meter tall, unique historical inscription documenting the renowned Orkhon heritage in the world history of science. Within the cultural landscape are a number of archaeological remains and standing structures, including the ruin of the 8th century's Uyghur capital of Har Balgas, covering 50 square kilometers, with many grand and majestic palaces, monasteries, halls, and other buildings from the 8th century. There is also the 13th to 14th centuries ancient Mongol imperial capital of Karakorum city ruin. The remains of the palace of the Mongolian Khan from the 13th and 14th centuries when Ogedei Khan lived. Erdenzu, the earliest surviving Mongol Buddhist monastery, the Tuvkun Hermitage, and the Shank Western Monastery, located 2,600 meters above sea level. Karakorum, or Karakorum, is the first official capital of Mongolia. In 1220, Chinggis Khan founded the first Mongolian capital city in the Orkhon Valley, and the city was built at this time as a center for troops and weapons caches. In 1232, the main castle fortress was built. Buildings were completed by his successor and son, Ogedei Khan. And in 1235, he created the Tumen Amgalant Palace as an expression of strength and power of the Khan's state and symbol of development and prosperity. Thereby, Karakorum became the most beautiful and majestic, which reflected the view of life and the face of the Mongolian Empire. The greatest work of art by artists and craftsmen was the famous silver tree of Karakorum at the Tumen Amgalant Palace in the city center. At the top of the tree rose a trumpeting angel. When the Khan wanted to summon the drinks for his guests, the mechanical angel raised the trumpet to his lips and sounded the horn, whereupon the mouths of the serpents began to gush out a fountain of alcoholic beverages into the large silver basins arranged at the base of the tree. In the 13th century, Karakorum served as the city for inviting tourists and travelers, relevant officials, dignitaries, high classes of society, academics, and representatives of all religions, including Buddhists, Christians and Muslims, shamans, traders, and those from adjoining civilizations of Asia, Europe, and the Arab world. Erdenzu Monastery is the earliest Buddhist monastery in Mongolia. This monastery is located adjacent to the ancient city of Karakorum. 102 stupas were built during 100 years with donations from faithful believers. Erdenzu Monastery is a sacred place where one can find the preserved base of the Ger of Abtai Sain Khan, who retained the fireplace and hearth of Chinggis Khan, as well as stupas and monasteries where ancient historical monuments are saved, and the best masterpieces of religious art made by Mongolian national craftsmen from the 12th to the early 20th century. The Orkhon Valley is one of the most important cultural regions in the world and was recognized by the UNESCO World Heritage as a cultural landscape in 2004, from evidence that, for many centuries, the Orkhon Valley was viewed as the seat of the imperial power of the steppes. It was inscribed by UNESCO on the World Heritage List as representing the evolution of nomadic pastoral traditions spanning more than 2 millennia. Orkhon Valley National Park has many natural landscapes with unique geographical features such as the Orkhon River and Huis 8 Lake and the Orkhon Ulan Sutgalan. On the north bank of the river Tamir, in the Orkhon Valley, the grained granite cliffs of Taiga Rock are located. This stone is trapped in the mountains. The water year is gone over time to stay at the beautiful creation of the nature. The Horgo Nature Reserve is a unique attraction amazing everyone by its beauty of nature. This place was taken into state protection in 1965. The Horgo volcano erupted 9,000 years ago. The diameter of the volcano's crater is 300 meters, with a slope of about 50 degrees and 100 meters depth. The volcanic eruption caused ground cracks and fissures extending 100 kilometers, and where the Suman and Chulut rivers now flow. The freshwater lake Terhin Tsagan Nur is located near the Horgo volcano. Terhin Tsagan Nur is an astonishingly beautiful lake with crystal clear fresh water. Torrents of lava issuing from Horgo volcano blocked the north and south Terh rivers, thus forming the dammed lake of Terhin Tsagan Nur. In the small island at the middle of Terhin Tsagan Nur lake, birds make their nests and lay eggs. Black ducks come to the lake and dive 5 meters to eat fish. Mongolia features diverse wildlife species. Mongolia has 1,500 species of insects, 300 species of creeping animal, amphibians, 80 species of fish, 415 species of birds, and 140 species of mammals. There are many animals included in the Red Book because they are very endangered. In Mongolia, there are 19 kinds of animals that are forbidden to be hunted, including wild horses, deer, reindeer, wild sheep, wild goats, moose, gobi bears, kurlans, pheasants, and others. Ulaanbaatar is the capital and the largest city of Mongolia, and symbolizes freedom and independence, history, politics, economics, religion, and culture. It was founded in 1639 as a yurt monastery. Ulaanbaatar, then Urgu, was intended by the Mongol nobles to be the seat of government of the first Javzandamba Hutugtu Zanabazar. Since then, the capital has moved more than 30 times, and in 1778 it was moved to the place where Ulaanbaatar now is, and thus became a city with 375 years of history. Ulaanbaatar is located in the Hatan Tul River Valley, at the northern foot of the Bolt Khan Ul Biosphere Reserve. Ulaanbaatar is divided into 9 administrative districts. 40% of the population of Mongolia live in Ulaanbaatar. The Chinggis Khan statue is located in front of the government palace in the central part of the city. It houses various state organs, such as the legislative state Great Khurul and the government. There is a state honorary ceremony hall, the Museum of History of the Mongolian state, and the statue of Chinggis Khan and his heroic warriors. In Chinggis Khan Square, in front of the government palace, many activities involving many people regularly take place. Ulaanbaatar is the centre of the national industry and services, and there are currently about 4,000 large and small businesses which produce 50% of the gross domestic product. Ulaanbaatar is developing as a major centre of science and culture, and here one can find centralised and focused research organisations, universities, international organisations under the influence of international relations, and the development of education. As tourism and the travel industry have been developing constantly, the number of hotels has been increasing as well as the number of organisations, economic entities, and citizens involved in tourism. And there are a number of new hotels, restaurants, and tourist facilities that expand the tourist infrastructure. There are around 500 hotels and tourist camps that provide services for tourists and visitors in Ulaanbaatar and other provinces. Mongolia is a dinosaur country. Dinosaur skeletons that are from 70 to 120 million years ago. Dinosaur eggs, raw fossils, mummified dinosaurs and claws, which are considered the largest in the world. And petrified animals, trees and plants can be seen in the centre of paleontology. There were more than 400 different species of dinosaurs, belonging to 7 groups, from which the 80 different species of dinosaur remains were found in Mongolia. The Bogd Khan Winter Palace Museum attracts tourists. It was the residence and monastery of Mongolia's last Bogd Khan, religious and governmental leader. Bogd Khan used to live in this palace. Religious and cultural items associated with the life of the Bogd Khan, such as clothing, leather, and his stuffed leopard, can be found in the Winter and Summer Palace. In addition, its amazing and rare architecture appropriately attracts particular interest of visitors, both foreign and domestic tourists. The National Museum of Mongolian History, the Museum of Natural History, and the Choyjin Lama Museum display rich exhibits of geography, geology, minerals, flora, fauna, paleontological remains, and origins of humanity from ages past. Fine Art Museum has paintings drawn with natural colours and tanka, tapestries from the Tsam religious dance. There are many public and private institutions that perform various activities, such as world classics and traditional performances. Unique long song, which is as spacious as a steppe, surprisingly unique humi, grand presentation of contortionists who seem to have no vertebrae, uniquely expressive, melodious, original and famous morinhor, which can bring classical music to life on only 2 strings, are among the many facts of the cultural heritage inherited from ancient times by the Mongols. The Longsong, Humi and Morinhur are recognized worldwide and are registered on the list of UNESCO, as well as the Bilgi traditional dance, art by eulogy, and the musical instruments limbe and tsur are registered on the masterpiece of oral and intangible cultural heritage of humanity, which urgently need to be taken under protection. Mongolia is one of the leading places for development of opera and ballet as a kind of classical art, and a lot of famous artists successfully take on the national scene of world-famous classical works. In recent years, it has become a popular phenomenon for tourists to come to Mongolia just to see classic art. The Mongols have developed nomadic livestock breeding from the earliest times for generations and have lived thanks to the productivity and efficiency of livestock. The Mongols were breeding cattle all year round, where the grass is most fertile, nutritious and rich, where the water is the clearest, and kept sacred the traditions of their ancestors. Without knowledge of nature, it is impossible to understand nomadic culture. The Mongols are eating the world's most nutritious, healthy and organic natural foods, thanks to livestock, grazing all seasons at their pleasure. From livestock milk and other dairy products such as cream, dried curds, dried cottage cheese, sour cream, and others are produced. Housing, clothing, and household items of the Mongols have many wonderful qualities, allowing them to be used for different functional purposes according to the circumstances and the situation. For the nomadic lifestyle, the Mongol ger is the most suitable accommodation, which is very easy to dismantle, move and assemble, and also has high heat shielding and soundproofing. For example, the national dress del can be worn adapted to the 4 seasons, can be used as a blanket at night to go to bed, and as outerwear outside. Mongolians have been developing their own specific culture and national identity in clothing and jewelry for many years. Mongolian national clothing is related to the weather, engaging households, customs, cultural frameworks, and social lifestyle. The Mongolian national del is a crafted clothing, enriched by time, whose design involves both maintaining national identity and modern fashion hand in hand, and is recognized throughout the world. Mongolia is well known for its cashmere. Mongolia is the world's second largest producer of raw cashmere after China, and delivers 30% of the pure cashmere to the world. Cashmere is the 3rd main export after copper, gold and coal. Mongolian cashmere is a pure product with unique qualities and softness, good heat retention and hygroscopic abilities. Many Mongolian companies export 100% goat cashmere, camel and sheep wool, yak wool clothes, carpets and many other products. One of the Mongolian celebrations is Tsagansa, the White Month, celebrated in the first month of spring, and has been one of the most important celebrations of the Mongols for centuries. In 1206, after the establishment of the Great Mongolian Empire, Chinggis Khan issued a decree to celebrate this national holiday in the beginning of the lunar calendar year. Sagansar Eve, or the last day of winter, is called Bitum, which means full darkness. It is a single night when no moon is visible in the sky. With the sunrise, the greeting ceremony starts inside the family. The oldest person stays in Hoimor, the Ger's northern side, and the younger family members greet him or her first and then greet each other. At Sagansar, the households reverently place on the celebratory table a sheep's carcass. Bo, biscuits made of flour, is the second main dish to be on the table. These have their own traditional dignity. To defend the homeland, every man needs wrestling, archery, and horse racing abilities. The Mongols celebrate the Naadam festival by calling it the Erin Gurvan Naadam, or the Three Games of Men. Since the Great Mongol Empire inspired great power, it promotes the unity of tribes and martial arts. There is a ground for the Erin Gurvan Naadam. Since 1921, every year on July the 11th, people celebrate the victory of the public revolution that fulfilled people's feelings, and this became the national celebration of the anniversary of Mongolia's independence. Naadam begins with a procession of the honor guard, carrying the ceremonial state white standards, or Chinggis 9 Tug Sulda, at the National Stadium, and the opening speech of the President of Mongolia. Naadam begins with an elaborate introduction ceremony, including art performances of popular talents, featuring dancers, athletes, horse riders, and musicians. The festival celebrates the three manly sports: wrestling, archery, and horse racing. National wrestling is the pride of Naadam. When the official opening ceremony has concluded, the first wrestlers come onto the center field, and the first of many rounds begins. The wrestlers wear an unusual type of top, zodol, brief shorts, shudok, high leather boots, gutul, competing to verify and praise their strength, stamina, and high mastery. The wrestlers who win 5 to 9 rounds or over are awarded rank rewards and are introduced to the public with a long recitation of their past performances and victories. Mongolian archery is a national pride that is praised and blessed in ancient mythology. All the archers aged from 8-year-old youths to 80-year-old elders take their bows and arrows to the stadium to show their wisdom and skills. After every single shooting, someone from among the overseers bends and adjusts the destroyed pyramids and makes it ready for the next round. The winners of the contest are granted the titles of National Marksman and National Markswoman. Horse racing trainers across the country arrive at the Naadam Stadium to race their fast horses and to glorify their speed and strength. They prepare their fastest horses 2 months before Naadam. The knowledge to identify and to train a racehorse is inherited from ancestors. The horses race 25 to 30 kilometers across the steppe, the distance depending on the horse's age. People caught in the dust of the racing horse itself are considered to have grace and fortune. The 5 winning horses are admired as the Airag 5, and the winning jockey is praised with the title of Tumni Ech, and traditional poems are read out, extolling the virtues of the riders and trainers. Along with the 3 games of men, the Shagai games are especially popular among Mongols. This is a game played with knuckle bones. The Shagai game was invented during the 13th century, and at first it was an entertainment for kings and princes. Later, this game was played by the people as an activity to test their strength and quickness. The 2-day statehood celebration of Naadam is one of the most famous celebrations and holidays of Mongolians and attracts many foreign tourists and travellers. Tourism is successfully developing in Mongolia, and many varieties of interesting tours are offered, including an introduction to nomadic lifestyle, traditional arts and cultural, natural and adventure, horse and camel tours, hunting and historical tours all attract foreign tourists and travellers. Many interesting events and festivals, such as the Ice Festival for tourists, the Eagle Festival, Camel Polo, Camel Races, the Yak Festival, Naadam, Delte Mongol, the Festival for Horse Herders, Dairy Day, and Mini Naadams are organised regularly. We have talked a little about Mongolia, located at the centre of Asia, about the admirable people, the marvellous land that is revered and worshipped by people, its unique tradition, development, culture and history. We are inviting you to visit the people who are as generous as the steppe is spacious, and to stay here in comfort as if at your own home. We invite you to challenge Mongolia, land of great steppes, with us.